All right, good evening to you from the Storm Alert Weather Center. This is the lead forecaster, Daniel Wilson, along with storm anchor Keith Richardson. And Keith, I guess it shows you that you can always have technical difficulties from time to time. And while we're out there, while we're doing this, we will go ahead and ask everybody how is the audio. And we're following this now on Facebook before we get very far along. Tell us, can you hear everything? Is everything okay? According to the meters here, it is registering properly. So just give us a clue that everything is okay this evening. And I think probably that it is. If you would just comment that everything is fine. If it's not, then we'll find out, I'm sure, as we go along. But all the buttons and the bells seem to be going off just exactly right. We should have this part under control, Keith, because after we talked about half the program without a microphone, but now we're back in business, and we're glad to be along here this evening from the Storm Alert Weather Center. Keith, it's kind of an interesting evening. 27 degrees outside. It's a cold evening, but at the end of the day, we're still in line for severe weather, and that's what we're talking about come the next few months. It's the months that we look for severe weather. And Keith, what's your thoughts on this year's severe storm season?
I think that everybody needs to be prepared, and we're getting ready to discuss here in a little bit in simple terms so everybody could follow along and understand some of the things that's going to be going on, because this time of the year you need to be prepared, and get ready for severe weather. It can happen just about any time.
Well, some of the worst thunderstorms that I can ever remember seeing is in the winter months. We had a tornado that came through in Adair County back several years ago. It was on, I believe, January the 1st. Had a tornado here in 2012, was it?
Yes, it was.
2012, that was a leap year. And that was the same 2 days later, the tornado outbreak that went through Henryville, Indiana, and over through West Liberty and eastern Kentucky. I've seen tornado warnings even on Christmas Day in Kentucky. So severe weather can happen just about any time. And leading up to severe weather, we always talk about a slight risk or a moderate risk of storms. And one of the things that we want to discuss this evening is the different risk and what brings us up to that severe weather day. And these are some of the things that we look at. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. The general thunderstorms are, just a typical day when you would have a little thunder or maybe some lightning and nothing severe. The next one is a marginal risk, meaning that isolated severe thunderstorms are possible. And then we have a slight risk of storms, which that would indicate a scattered severe storms. That means one community might have one. It may skip a county or two and pretty much scattered in nature. Then as they become more numerous in an enhanced risk, this is something that we kind of look a little bit stronger at and a little harder at when you have the enhanced risk. And then later you have the moderate risk, which is widespread severe weather. And we can also have tornadoes in any of those scenarios, but mainly in the enhanced and moderate risk. Now the fifth level is the widespread severe storms are expected. And Keith, that's something we rarely see. I've only seen that a few times in my history of doing weather. Not a whole lot of events that you see that. I think that maybe in March of 2012, I believe that we were in that high risk, mainly the southern part of of Indiana and the northern part of Kentucky, stretching over into the coal fields of eastern Kentucky. And that was, the tornado outbreak. The first time that I can recall seeing a debris ball in a radar image this close to home. And to see it in eastern Kentucky, it was just unfounded. But we were brought up to the next thing of, tornado watches, tornado warnings, and what are the difference between the two? That is something that a lot of people ask, and let's take a look at those. Keith, you want to talk a little bit about what a tornado watch is?
A tornado watch is conditions that are favorable for severe weather. Typically, they last 4 hours and they cover a large area. So be aware and monitor for warnings. It just means that you want to be out on the lookout and be aware of your surroundings and your situation at the time.
And another thing, Keith, even though you have a watch situation, the clouds may be 200 miles away. You may not have anything at all. The stars may be in the sky. It may be a sunny afternoon, maybe a little bit on the musty side or sticky side, and the humidities may be up. And you may have some gusty southerly winds coming in. But there is something out there that gives meteorologists and forecasters that concern to issue a tornado watch. And when those tornado watches are issued, it simply means to pay attention and to be alert and to be vigilant and to be proactive and to know what you're going to do. A tornado warning, on the other hand, if we look at that again, a tornado warning means that severe weather is occurring or is imminent. And it's, a typical severe thunderstorm, unless you have a training line of thunderstorms that advances over and over. In fact, I want to talk about that for a second, but when you have a training thunderstorm, it's just repeated and repeated. Typically, if that's an exception, but usually thunderstorms are in and out of this area within 30 minutes to an hour. A tornado warning means that a tornado has been detected on radar or has been spotted by trained observers, and that is a sign for you to take action. A tornado watch or severe thunderstorm watch means conditions are favorable for the development of a severe thunderstorm or tornado in and close to the watch area. And a warning simply means that severe weather is occurring, and that is the time to take action. Keith, believe it or not, I have people all the time. They'll say, we're under a tornado warning. There's not a cloud in the sky, and people do not grasp the technology. And sometimes it's, being involved in weather here for over 30 years. I started back in like 1983, 84, working for WJRS radio station, and we've seen technology change, and you would think people would catch on to think, well, this is a watch, that means to watch, and a warning means that something is happening, and they need to take action.
Imminent action.
But unfortunately, we don't have that to happen. But we're talking about the training thunderstorms in May of 1984. That was when that's the storms that came through that brought the lake up to the highest level until a couple of weeks ago. I was involved in that through radio, and we broadcast live severe weather coverage Saturday night, Sunday night, and part of the day on Monday. And we had torrential flooding. We had tornadoes here. I think Pulaski County High School, their roof collapsed. And it was a very, very trying time. 3 days of severe weather. And it was one storm after another. So that is where you have, just a continued line of showers and thunderstorms developing. And sometimes you can have a tornado or severe thunderstorm in those embedded lines.
Well, you know, it's just like the flood they had in 2010, you know, up into Casey County and up into Bull and Garrett County. You know, you just had multiple training thunderstorms that just dumped copious amounts of water that just inundated Casey County and Liberty with multiple inches of water in just a couple of hours. I mean, that's what you're talking about here.
Well, and Keith, you know, we look at the situation, you know, the latter part of February where all the rains came through and it raised the lake levels. It made the dam release water at an unheard of proportion. And the only thing that kept that from being even worse of a disaster than what, well, I guess you would call it a disaster or a little inconvenience, is the fact that there were some breaks in that precipitation band as it come through. You had several lines of rain that came through, but we also had a period of calm where there simply wasn't a whole lot going on. If we had continued rain 3, 4, 5 inches an hour over a longer period of time, then the areas around Casey County would have been flooded, around Liberty would have been flooded, and we would have seen a whole lot worse situation than what we had back when you referred to. I covered all the damage or the flooding up in Casey County, or seen a lot of it, and it wasn't near as bad as what it could have been if we'd have had things to go along. But anyway, tornado safety tips, we want to talk about that for a moment. This is kind of a no-brainer. You know, you've heard the people talk about it, you've heard them say this is what you need to do, and we're going to repeat some of these things. You need to go to the lowest level of your home or building, preferably in a basement. Stay away from windows. If you're in a mobile home, immediately move to a substantial shelter if possible. And I have a comical thing to tell you. I was working in a broadcast media, and a lady called me one night, and she says, I have a question for you. And I said, what is it? She said, I live in a mobile home. She says, what do I need to do? You know, and they were given really bad weather and tornadoes. And I said, well, how long have you lived there, ma'am? And she says, 30 years. And I said, well, what did you do the last 29 years? And she said, I went to a neighbor's house. And I said, do you think your neighbor would let you go there tonight? And she said, I think so. I said, well, I think you've answered your own question. So people, you know, sometimes it's hard to believe that they're what they're thinking. Go to an interior room, closet, or hallway. Get under a sturdy piece of furniture like a table or a workbench. Grab blankets to cover yourself with. Listen to NOAA Weather Radio, TV media for the latest weather information from the National Weather Service. Also, before we break in to tell you anything else, we will tell you this. If you are in the middle of a watch situation, it's a good idea to have good shoes and even to have a helmet. And honestly, Keith, I don't have a helmet, but that is in my list of things to have. Simply a bicycle helmet could save your life.
You're definitely going to have something to protect your head, because there's a lot of flying debris that goes around when you're directly into a tornado.
And if you followed what I did this morning at 9:07, I actually went into my crawl space, and I realized something. You know, this is a test situation, and I realized one thing, that the door that covers the crawl space is a lot heavier than what I realized. And I found out that once I got it down to a certain level, I said, not only am I fighting trying to get in and get the door down, but I'm wondering if this thing is going to knock me out when it comes down. So I realized that I'll have to get some type of a shock to keep that door from slamming shut to where I can pull it down and to be safe in the event that a tornado warning is issued. Kim, we're going to take questions here in just a second. You ask about an apartment building, preferably the lowest level and inside an interior wall. We're going to have question and answer session here in just a few minutes. But Kim, that is a good question. If you live in an apartment building, you want to go inside the lowest level in an interior wall, if at all possible. And we will get to that in just a second. We'll take more questions. One of the things that is brought up during severe weather, or even it doesn't have to be severe, is the risk of lightning. And Keith, that is one thing that I totally respect. 2 years ago in July, I lost nearly everything in our weather studio. Everything was gone, and it went just like that. I mean, it was that quick.
Just
it was
in an
gone.
instant, it's gone.
Yeah, it was gone. I lost all the monitors, my internet router, everything but the computers. I lost everything, and I lost it this quick. The lightning was within 15 feet of me. Hit a tower that takes, that handles all the radios and stuff that we have here, and I consider myself blessed to the fact that I wasn't struck by lightning, literally.
You absolutely could have been involved in that directly.
And then when we're going to get on with the program, when you can hear thunder, and that is a sign that you should go indoors and stay away from windows, electrical appliances, all of that kind of things. A couple of quick stories. Back when we had a lot of landline phones and phones on the wall, I recall a friend of mine was on the phone with somebody. It came up a simple thunderstorm, and she hung up the phone. Lightning struck the telephone and blew it into a million pieces all over the wall, all over the floor. Another case where a man was he was out in the field working. They were either setting tobacco or hauling in. I don't know. I can't remember what. But he was involved, in the salt shelter in an old farmhouse. Then the storm passed, and he stuck his head out the window or the door when the sun started to shine, and he says, "Well, I think it's about over." And lightning struck him, and he died right there. So if you're close enough to where you can hear thunder, you're at risk of being struck by lightning. Folks, take that serious. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, take it serious. We're not here to scare or to intimidate anybody, but I've been involved in this for a long time, and I have seen the fall of people's mentality. And I hate to say it like that, but I take it serious, and there's a lot of other people that do too. And when we talk about this, by George, whenever the lightning and thunder is going on, stay in the house.
Absolutely.
If you're one of these people that plays sports and you have your kids in the ball field, the ball game is going to have to it's going to have to be played tomorrow. Get those kids off the field, get them out of the pools. Everybody go in the house.
The golf course.
The golf course. I mean, we've had people even here to die from the being on the golf course. Another thing we're going to move right along is the dangers of flooding, and the importance of turning around and don't drown. It takes very little water to move your vehicle. In fact, a friend of mine just a couple of weeks ago, she was traveling in the southern part of the county. She drove across a bridge that we had flooded waters going through, and guess what? She was swept downstream, and she made the statement, when I talked to her the first time, she said, "I'm lucky to be alive." I said, "Lady, you are blessed to be alive, because the average person would have drowned whenever she opened up the door to her car to get out. She went down and water over her head, thinking that her car was swept downstream. Got out and water over her head and grabbed a small branch, and that's what saved her life. She's able to pull herself up to dry ground. And folks, you need to turn around and don't drown. You don't know how deep the water is, or even what's the shape of the roads below.
It could be washed out.
That's exactly right, and we have to remember that whenever those times comes along. One of the questions that we have all the time is, what is the best way to get warnings? And we will first of all tell you that you don't need to depend on the internet, social media. Do not wait. Don't depend on me. And I hate to say that because it sounds like that I'm downplaying, my position in the community or for what we believe in or the integrity of the Storm Alert Center. But the fact is, sometimes it may be where I would miss a warning here. It could be the internet goes down. It could be that there's a lot of problems with your application, with your phone, or your internet service at your house. Do not depend on me or anybody else on Facebook to bring you weather warnings. Sure, you may get one from us, and we're going to preach about it, we're going to talk about it, but don't put your confidence in the internet. It's not going to work. There's always the variables of things happening that you may miss something, and you're not going to hear it if you're sleeping. You're not going to hear it. It's just that simple. One of the applications that I use on my phone, and whenever I hear people, you say it's $9, they go, oh, well, I don't think I want to do that. But Weather Alert or Weather Radio by WDT. I think, Keith, you have it on your phone. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell them a little bit about how it works and if you think it's appropriate or not.
It's just absolutely wonderful because, if you got a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning, it sets your cell phone off. Or if you got a NOAA weather radio, is what you get directly from the National Weather Service. You'll get warnings from those before you get it from your weather.
But right now, but as we speak about the weather radio app on your phone, that is a great app to have.
Absolutely,
on your phone.
It is the greatest. I wouldn't go without it.
And then it's a $9, I think $9.99 or $10 for a one-time fee. Weather Radio by WDT. Go to your app Play Store. You can't miss it. You can set it up. Everything that you need, it's right there. Kim, we're gonna get into all the questions here in just a minute. I'm looking here at the Facebook page. We're gonna get into all those questions here in just a few minutes. You all be thinking about what you want to talk about and what you want to ask us, and we will be happy to get those to you. I'm not ignoring you, Kim. I'll be with you in just a second. So download the app, pay the $10, and be prepared. Something that's a little more expensive, a one-time fee as well, and that is the ever-popular NOAA Weather Radio. And that is something that every home should have. In fact, I have, let's see, about three here that I'll use.
I've got two.
And it's something that every home should have. And they're $30 at Walmart. You'll waste money. You could easily have a NOAA weather radio. There's no excuse for that. Do you think?
No, they're real easy to set up. The weather radio is, and it's I got one in my bedroom, and I also got one in my living room. So some people think it's annoying having it in their bedroom, but when you're asleep at night and you got severe weather in your area, you want to have it in your bedroom to where you'll be alerted to be woke up out of your sleep to know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to be aware of what is what's happening, and that will get you up. NOAA Weather Radio or the tornado, or the other one that we talked about, the Weather Radio app by WDT. That's a great one for your phone. And then the one beside your bed that's pretty much easy to operate is the NOAA weather radio, and that comes directly from the National Weather Service, and that's something that we use. Now, this is the other thing that we'd like to talk about is a radar scope. And if you are a weather nerd like Keith and me,
Yeah.
then this is what that you would need to have on your phone. It's again a one-time fee of $10, but you can find out the latest locations of storms. It has GPS technology to where you know exactly where the storm is and if you're going to be impacted or not. One of the things that I mean, we could talk a lot. This is almost like a weather class, but one of the things that's good about Radar Scope is if they issue a storm warning for, say, for Russell County, and if it's only impacting the northern part of the county, you can see in the polygons, that's the boxes. And myself, I don't have a radar image, but this promotional image by Radar Scope, you can see on the right side the box that's covering part of that thunderstorm. And that is a sign that they have a severe thunderstorm warning there. And that means that any area to the north or south of that is not a severe storm. So, you know, you need to be aware of the warnings and where you are affected. One of the things that concerns me greatly, and we're going to move right on down, we'd like to tell everybody to please get your questions together and be able to ask those here in just a second. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that when we have a severe weather event, we have the outdoor warning sirens, and that's going to be another sermon of mine in a moment. But even though there could be a tornado warning for, say, for Creelsboro or for the northern part of the county, and yet the sirens are activated all over the county. And I'm referring to mainly for Russell County, and I don't know what the platform or the agenda is for other counties, but if we have a tornado warning that's affecting only the northern part of the county, then why should everybody in the southern part be alarmed? And that's just a question that I pose for people. I believe in being proactive and being in tune with what's going on. And if you cry wolf so many times, then whenever there is a disaster happen, then those people are going to be referred to as victims, or they're going to be part of the carnage that you wish didn't happen, because you've blown the siren, you've cried wolf. Not only the outdoor warning sirens, but also the National Weather Service weather radio. I'm not talking about the people nor the organization, but the Weather Service is between 50 and 75% incorrect or wrong. They give false warnings to us. And you can say, well, why do you say that? How do you know? Well, how many times have we had a tornado warning issued or a severe thunderstorm warning issued, and the winds barely blew and the rains barely fell? We had nothing. That's what you call, a failure in technology. You know, we give the Weather Service credit for what they do, but at the end of the day, you know, we have to realize there's a long area there of missed calls, and that's why that we have some technology here within our studio that hopefully will be that cutting edge on severe weather when tornadic thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms approach this area. Speaking of the outdoor warning siren, I know we have millions of dollars invested in these, and they're growing like dandelions. It seems like everywhere you see that there's an outdoor siren, But folks, that is World War II technology. That is something that we have simply put the rubber coating on the wheel. We've tried to reinvent something by adding, letting them spin around, letting them to be three-phase current, and to do all of this stuff where we can set them off miles and miles away, set them off by your phone or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, never, do not depend on an outdoor siren to provide tornado warning information. They are not dependable. And I mean, I know people may say, well, you're beating your lead horse. You know, depending on where the siren is, what kind of environment you're in, the way the wind's blowing, if you're on a motorcycle, if you're on a farm tractor, you may not hear it. Not because it's not blowing, but you may not hear that siren. Am I right, Keith?
Yeah, I know several instances that I've been outside, or I've been in my house, and the outdoor siren blows, and you don't hear it from inside of my house.
Well, of course, that they are only, they're outdoor.
Yeah. And then when I'm even standing outside with wind blowing, if the wind is blowing a certain direction, it just cuts it off where you can't really hear it at all.
And we need to remind folks too, don't be dependent upon that outdoor warning siren for the for protection of life and property. It's just that simple. It's not going to make it's not a dependable source. Yep, we've spent a lot of money on them, but it's not a dependable thing. It's not a personal thing. It's just something that I have. One of my colleagues in meteorology, James Spann down in Alabama, is a great meteorologist. Somebody that I have a lot of respect for and have for several years because following him and I've learned a great deal. In fact, even went to a seminar at Western Kentucky University a few years ago and got to meet him. And James is a great guy, and it was through his education that he explained publicly, and he's adamant about the tornado sirens. And when you hear that message, you realize that this guy has he knows he's got it together. He knows what he's talking about. Because at one time I was a proponent for the outdoor sirens. I'm like, we need them on every street corner. We need them in every mobile home park. We need them in front of every school. But now with technology the way it is, with our radios and our phone apps and all these other things, I can't see it's time we moved on. There is a better way, folks. Don't let them. We can put them up, and we can spend money to maintain them, and we can erect several more in the county or everywhere we're going to put them. But don't put dependence in them, because it's a false sense of security. You may not hear them depending on where you are and what's going on around you. So avoid the outdoor warning sirens. Another thing to avoid is the use of social media for weather warnings. I mean, this is probably as plain as it gets. Avoid social media. Don't depend on Facebook. I don't care, if I'm on Facebook Live and doing severe weather. Don't depend on any platform of social media to bring you weather warnings. So, and that would include Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube videos, whatever the platform might be. Do not depend on those things for severe weather. All right, I think we have been. I don't think we've been live quite an hour. Maybe we had a little problem there at the beginning, but it's going on 9 o'clock, and I want to go ahead and allow the opportunity to take some questions. And if you have a question that you would like to ask Keith or me, we're going to be monitoring the Facebook page. Kind of turn the camera off, and we will let you make those questions at this time, and let us know what what you want to know about. Let's see. Kim Bentley says she has that on her phone, and says it will call whether a thunderstorm come. Will go off to say weather alert. So she has that on her phone. They just come up with something to alert people that a tornado is coming and give them time to get in a safe place in their home. Well, Kim, that is basically what the NOAA Weather Radio does, and we do appreciate you mentioning that, because that is the correct answer. You know, a NOAA Weather Radio for you. Nicole says tornado alert device does a great job, and that is a unique piece of equipment, technology that's been disputed by some people, and that's why that we haven't gone public with it here to say that this is, because this is it, because a lot of people and even meteorologists refuse to accept the fact that it has a potential as a great thing to detect severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. Keith?
Yeah, I mean, with the weather radio, a lot of the older ones that we used to have, you was not able to, you have weather warnings going off halfway across the state, and would keep you up all night long. Well, with today's weather radios today, they have a technology now to where you can set those to where just a couple of counties out from the west or the southwest that you set in, that starts alerting you to severe weather heading your way. That gives you a little bit more of a heads up of intimate severe weather coming your way, to get prepared with that situation, and just makes it a whole lot better than what it used to be.
All right, Keith, we've had had several people that's tuned in this evening, and we would like to again take any questions that you may or may not have tonight. We've had a few that's come in this evening, a couple of emails that I've noticed I've taken on my phone this evening. Someone has asked me if there are warnings in the area, how much time do we have to get to the safe place? And that's a legitimate question, Keith. But the thing is, you can't say that you have any particular time. Sometimes warnings are issued late, and so you have to be alert and vigilant to your surroundings. If there's a tornado warning in Adair County, then be heads up and know what is going on with that situation, and be alert to everything that's going on. That's all I can tell you. Wouldn't you say, Keith?
Yeah, that's why they give out, severe thunderstorm watches or tornado watches, is to make it to where you're heads up of potential severe weather coming in your area, so you'll be prepared. That in case, if you do have a tornado warning, you'll be ready to go to your safe place, be prepared.
All right, well, I don't think we have anybody asking questions, so we're going to go ahead and tell everybody good evening. Keith, it's been good to be with you tonight, and we appreciate you stopping by. Just got off of the work doing the old carpet cleaning business, and Keith is up around so where do you work out of most of the time?
Out of Danville, Kentucky.
Out of Danville, Kentucky, up north of here. And Keith is he's a good friend of mine. He and his wife Maggie are two of the best people that I can think of, knowing a great asset and a wealth of knowledge when it comes to weather. and technical things. We we're right there side by side, and it's good to have people like Keith along with us, and we're glad to have you folks here as well.
Absolutely.
So I guess with that being said, we want to wish everybody a safe and pleasant evening, and remember to be alert and informed, because when it's all said and done, you know, it's about self-preservation, and you got to take it up on yourself to make sure that you survive. We can't do it for you. I'm not going to drag anybody. Well, let me back up. I will tell you, we had a tornado warning one time, and it was impacting the southern part of the county. I was working for 911, and there was a lady come between the courthouse and the jail, and she was like staggering around. She didn't know what to do, and I grabbed her and I drug her into the courthouse, just as the hail and stuff started falling. It was a bad day, and I believe she'd have probably been swept out if I hadn't done something with her, because she had no clue what was going on. I just grabbed hold of her and drug her in the courthouse. So I'm sure
you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in this evening from the Storm Alert Weather Center. Glad to have you along. Sorry about the mix-up earlier, but I guess technology happens, doesn't it, Keith?
It happens. It does.
So y'all have a good evening, and we thank you so much for tuning in to the Storm Alert Weather Center. Thank you for watching.